What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of What the Fuck Do You Do? I'm your co-host, Shrey. We got T-Foxy Trav. Justin's not here, but we've replaced him with a very special guest.
So happily replaced him.
Yeah, honestly, he was kind of being dead weight. But we've got Nikki here. Nikki, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing good.
It's delightful. It's actually a beautiful day. I biked all day this morning. It was really nice.
Oh, we love. Do you have the city bike? Do you have the unlimited?
Of course.
Of course, we love it.
Of course I do. Do I expense it as a health-related expense annually? Yes.
As you should.
Yes.
As you should.
Yeah, you're a big city biker, right?
Oh, I love. There's nothing better than the moment we were just talking about like drinking, but like when you're kind of buzzed and you're just city biking home at night by yourself, and like you have your phone playing music, and it's just you and the open road. It's like my favorite time to be alive. Truly.
Wait, do you have headphones in?
No, because that's like I get like scared that I'm gonna miss a car honking.
Yeah.
So I put my phone like either in my pocket and I like turn it up, and then I'm just like it's like me in the open road.
Wow.
It's great.
Okay.
Sponsored by Lyft Pink.
Last night I was with people and like people were drinking and stuff, and they're like, I want a city bike. And they're like, I love it more when I'm drinking.
Yeah.
I would feel that's more dangerous. No?
Okay, that's why I said buzz, like a slight buzz,
Okay.
like just like happy, and then you have this euphoric moment of being in New York City, and like it's dark and the lights and all the things, and it hits you.
Can I give you the counterfactual to that, which
Yes.
is being buzzed, city biking back from Manhattan to Brooklyn, getting a flat tire like halfway up the bridge slope, and just slowly sweating out and being frustrated of your buzz until you're just so cranky.
Did you walk it the rest of the way?
Well, I don't want to get off in the bike path. So,
Yeah, that's
but
fair.
it's like 2 miles once you get on a bridge. It's a long
Commitment.
long commitment.
And
yeah.
the Williamsburg Bridge is not flat. Like no one really tells. It's a heavy incline. Even like biking, it's rough. I always walk it.
That's like one of the most underappreciated thing of the bridges here is they are steep, the inclines.
I biked it for the first time like last year on a non-electric bike, and it was brutal. It was in the summer, and I showed up to Justin's birthday. Just my t-shirt was sweating, pit stains, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I gotta take like a walk to cool off." So I learned electric bikes are the way.
It's the move.
Yeah.
I know. I used to bike to Hinge dates on non-electric bikes.
Wow.
And because I don't sweat that much, and I was like, it'll be fine. And then I did it like a few weeks ago, and I was just disheveled. It was like the hair, and I was late, and I was like, you know what? I was like, it was at that point, it was faster than the train or an Uber. It was like a weird route, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to get there in time. I'll just take a bike.
Yeah.
And it was just not the move.
But if they see you like that, then when you're at your best,
If you love me at my worst.
You'll see all sides of me. It was truly like, this is me, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's better.
Actually, that probably is better.
Yeah, there should be more like disasters on first dates to
Exactly.
really get a sense of how people manage life scenarios.
The first question, what's the worst thing about you? Let's start with that.
What are openers on dates these days? What is New York
God.
dating life like?
I don't know. I mean, Shrey, you also can comment on this.
What do you like to do?
It depends. Sometimes you don't have to go through those questions. Sometimes it's like normal, but otherwise it's like, oh, like what do you do? You know, do you have? And then the worst one, not the worst one, but I'm like, do you have siblings? And I'm like, yes, we can get into family, but like I just met you. Like maybe we just shoot the shit a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. So it's like too deep too soon and too shallow.
Yeah, you have to like
find a
just
balance.
hover. Yeah.
I actually I find I get more engaged when we can have in-depth conversations. I agree it's like weird to like come out the gate just with some super deep questions. Like I feel like it has to kind of get sprinkled in there through natural small talk, if you want to call it.
That's Shrey, you have this thing that you like to do, which you call conversational grenades.
What is a conversational grenade?
Like a controversial hypothetical that Shrey thinks gets at like somebody's deeper soul and intentions.
I don't do that. But I do like to do that in like normal conversations. You just say something for shock value.
Like what? Okay, give me an example.
What have I done recently? It's a conversational grenade.
The one that you did to me like 2 years ago that has always stuck is like, what crime would your kid have to commit that you would turn them in?
Oh my God. Honestly, that's not a bad question.
No, it's like
that's really
their moral
good.
compass.
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
their ties to family. Like you get it a lot, like very fast.
Do you care to answer that
I was
question?
like, okay, let's see. What crime? Honestly, I truly don't know. Like, I don't think I could be able to turn my kid in for anything.
Even cold blood first degree murder.
Okay, if they were a sociopath, I would be like, all right, let's get you help, but not involve the police.
So for first degree murder, you're getting them help.
For crime of passion, you're covering it up.
I don't know. I watch a lot of Law and Order SVU, and there's so many corner cases on murder. Like, I don't get. What about you?
Well, I think I used a specific example if your kid like got drunk, decided to get in a car, and accidentally killed somebody. Mm-hmm. I said I would turn them in.
Really? And does the person usually agree with you, or is it like?
No, Travis is giving me a lot of shit.
No, I think my bar was like pretty much any violent crime, like
cold-blooded murder.
Yeah, but like shoplifting, maybe some like Grand Theft Auto. I don't know. I mean, that's like
sprinkle in.
If it's property-based damage, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fine.
You're not harming another human being, which is detrimental to society.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like when you have kids, I'm gonna play this back and be like, "Do you still think it's the same?"
I know.
Like,
we need to send this to like all the parents in the audience. Yeah, because like I don't know. I was watching Friday Night Lights, like the whole series back recently, and they like very actively cover up a small town murder.
Oh but so casually, and they're like, "Yeah, whatever, it's fine, anyways."
Yeah, it's crazy.
I do think a light conversational grenade would be like, I don't know, if you were talking about like, I don't know, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and then you just say like, I hate Taylor Swift.
Just
not because you actually hate her, you just want to see like
the reaction.
Yeah, you just throw the grenade in.
Okay, so question: how do you feel about Taylor Swift?
Oh,
I don't hate her. I think she's pretty cool. I actually like a lot of her music. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion. I don't know. I feel like people have overly strong opinions about people they don't know, and that makes me feel weird.
I agree.
Like this parasocial relationship idea. We talked about it like a couple episodes ago, but like don't base your happiness on people you will never meet.
Because you don't really know them.
No, you never will.
Know the media's interpretation of them.
Yeah.
I do think it's really weird. Like, I was at the gym this morning, and they were playing, I don't know if the Chiefs game is now or yesterday or last week or whatever. They're playing something with the Chiefs. And it's always about Taylor Swift. It's her, and it's like the headline is like, what is she going to do? Like, she's an Eagles fan, and they're playing the Chiefs this week. Like, they're like, there's a guy in her hometown. It's just like too much. It's just too much.
Well, getting into the main topic of today.
How do you segue? You can find a good segue. Recently, Taylor Swift was abroad. There's some controversy over the fact that she canceled her Brazilian performance because it was too hot. And I think she would have some opinions about what it's like to go abroad.
Hey.
There we go.
Not bad.
Segue,
yeah. Question is, what the fuck do you do if you're living abroad?
That is the main topic. But Nikki, do you want to walk us through a little high level of like your experience traveling, living in places that are not our home of New York City?
Growing up, my parents traveled a lot, so they took us with us, and that was just what I did as a kid. We like traveled to, like China and like Iran a couple times, and like Mexico and Europe and all these things, whatever. And I think when I was 20, like a junior in college, was I went on an exchange program to Madrid, and that was the first time I had been abroad alone. And that was the tipping point of everything. It just completely changed my life. I remember exactly where I was. I took a weekend trip to Morocco, and I was like walking down this alleyway, and I was like, my life is not the same. Like, I've seen so much in the past 6 months that like I want to make this a big part of my life. Wow. So, that was 6 months exchange program in Madrid, and then after that I spent like 3 months in Thailand. I've done a lot of solo travel. That's kind of my shtick, where I'm, for good or for bad or for good. That's kind of been my like preferred way of travel. So I've done things like a month-long things in South America, or like 10 to 14-day trips on my own. But generally speaking, it's been the exchange was the tipping point for all my interest.
Interesting.
You mentioned doing all the travel with your family when you were growing up. Like, for that point of time when you were in Morocco, that was like life-changing. Do you think it was being alone? Was it the age that you were at? Like, what made that experience feel different than the other trips that you had done?
It's really different when you're doing a trip on your own. You have to learn how you prefer to travel And when you're with your family, you go to like a nicer hotel, and then you go to like the more touristy things. Like my first time in New York City with my parents, I went to like the Wax Museum. That's the only memory I had of New York. And I'm not.
I went to the Spy Museum with my mom.
And I was like, what are we doing?
To that today, actually.
I'll go.
Trey's like, I went yesterday. What are you talking about? It just, you decide what you want to do when you're traveling, like, you know, as like a younger adult on your own. And I think I just saw so many different sides to the world that I had not previously seen.
Were your family vacations, were they like actual vacations or doing touristy stuff, or was it like visiting family, or like, I guess, what were those?
Like work trips.
Yeah.
It was never work trips. It was mostly just like for example, going to Iran was like to see family, or like I had family in China, and so we like made a trip out of that. But otherwise, all the Europe trips were just like us going to Europe, and we do have family in like Germany and like England, and so we would like see them. But mostly it was like, let's just go to like on a cruise to the Mediterranean, just for fun for like a week or so.
Was your family supportive of studying abroad? I know that's like surprisingly controversial for like a lot of my friends and their families.
It really is. They were not hyped, I would say. I really wanted to do, so my sister had done the same exchange program before me, and they're like, okay, she's doing it, you can do it too. But I wanted to go live in an apartment in Madrid, because half the students went to go find their own flat and do their own thing with roommates, and my parents were like, the only way you're able to go is if you stay in the dorm rooms at the university. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And they're like, well, we're paying for it. I was like, great. So I did that. My sister had done the same thing. And so she like literally showed me the ropes. She's like, this is the building, this is whatever. And I was like, great. So I slid in, and it actually had a lot of benefits that you got to live with the Spaniards and like hang out with them and be in the cafeteria with them. So I actually ended up like liking it a lot.
What made you want to go to Spain?
I remember like wanting to go to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
There was like an exchange, or no, it was Taiwan, I think. And I was nervous, because that's a huge culture shock.
Yeah.
To go live in Asia for 6 months, and I was like, okay, let's go one step back. Like go to Madrid, where I've been to Spain before. My sister just said the same thing. Let's just like see how that goes.
Did you know Spanish well before you went?
Like, I could kind of speak, but the city that I was living in was outside Madrid. It was called Getafe, and so there wasn't really that many English speakers in that city, because it was like smaller. So I basically had no choice but to practice, because I'd go to the grocery store and they're like, I don't know what you're saying to me. And I was like, okay, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
I feel like you learn 10 times faster when you're just thrown into it like that. Like there's no safety net or anything. You have to figure out how to say like peanut butter in a grocery store.
I know, you point, you're like, ¿Cómo se dice?
Yeah. Also, I feel like I feel like Americans in particular, like when they go abroad and it's not in their language or things are catered to them, rather than saying, okay, I'm just going to learn the language, they're like, why isn't this in English?
It is the most annoying. I literally, like, Americans think everything should be in English. Like, they're, like, shocked. Like, in Japan, no one speaks English. Like, what? And I'm like, oh, my God, you guys.
While you were in Spain, like, when you got there, what's the first thing you do?
My sister gave me this piece of paper with like drawings of like where the build. She's like, here's where you get off the cercanía. It's like the train.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're gonna walk do this way, then you're gonna walk over here. And then she's like, I left some pots and pans with another roommate, so you're gonna pick those up and put them in your dorm if you want them. So I get there, and I remember it was like the first few days, and I had this roommate, and she was an exchange student from China, and she spoke some English, but not amazing. She spoke better Spanish. And I remember hearing other kids that were like exchange students having like music, and they were having fun, and I was like alone, and I was like, I don't have any friends.
Yeah.
Like, how am I gonna make friends? And then I had like 4 days of just like this sadness of like, well, this isn't like the experience I thought it was gonna be. I don't have any friends. I'm not going out and partying, but it had been like 4 days, so I was like, I don't know what I expected. But I remember I was like, let me just go on a run and like see how I feel. And then I went on a run, and the endorphins kicked in, and I was like, all right, this will be fine. Orientation's coming up. You're fine. But there's the expectation of being on a study abroad where you're like, I should be partying and having the best time. And the first few days I was like, that is not happening.
Yeah, especially in a different language. You're not just like striking up conversation like in the hallways and stuff.
So what ended up happening is I was going to orientation for the exchange program like 3 or 4 days in. and I get in the elevator, and then there was this girl next to me, and I was like, hola. And she's like, started talking. She's from Mexico. Her name was Mariana, and we like walked to orientation together, and then just like chatted and whatever, and then we became really, really close. And to this day, still talk a lot. I went and stayed with her in Mexico City. She's from Mexico, so I went and stayed with her a few years back, and she's like a lifelong friend, and she's friends with some of my other friends, and so it was just saying hi in the elevator, and that really just kicked it all off.
There you go. So I always think about like, how did we ever make friends? Like, I don't remember how I made friends with you actually in high school. I think
just osmosis. Like, we saw each other enough outside of class, and then we're like, okay, let's be friends forever. I think that too. I'm like, when I did pinpoint it for college recently, like, why was I friends with these particular people? It was either randomly in my hallway, in my orientation group, or like from my hometown and in a class with that person. You know, it's just
always a reason.
But like random chance more than anything. Like, and they're like, let's be friends forever. You're my best friend now.
And here you guys are.
Yeah,
here we are doing podcasts.
Years later. It's beautiful.
It is.
So how did the experience progress? Like, did you end up meeting a lot more people as time went on?
Yeah, it became me, Mariana, and then there was another guy, Andres. He's from Colombia, and he was also in the dorm. It was kind of like the dorm crew. We were all like, well, we're all here in Getafe. It's not the center of Madrid, so let's make the best of it. And so we kind of became this little like crew, and then like there was a few other people from my university that I ended up meeting eventually, and like I've become really good friends. One of them actually lives in New York, and her name is Janelle. She's a good friend today. But I just needed to be patient. I think eventually, like the osmosis, it happens. You just can't expect to get somewhere and have a ton of friends and like go out and have the best time within like 2 days. It took some time.
So what was like a day in the life like in a study abroad program? Like, are you going to class the same way you would in an American college? Are you traveling every weekend? Like, what does that actually feel like?
It's similar. Like I would, wake up. I would like, if I had class in the morning, I would train to the university, or I'd go to the university. There was 2 different campuses, so depending on where it was. But then, class was super chill. I remember my professor, I was like, because I was taking some computer science courses, and I mean, I figured computer science in any country would be like kind of rigid. And there was like 1 week where like I just like didn't do the assignment, and I was like, oh, lo siento, like I didn't do it, and he was like, it's okay. And I was like, do you want me to make it up? He's like, it's okay. And I was like, nice. What? Like super chill. And the only ones that were ever on time to class were me and the Germans. Everyone else was late. Wow. I was like, this is indicative. But yeah, that was, I mean, very similar to American University. But then, weekends were mostly trips abroad.
And you did that too? You were like traveling to different countries?
Yeah, and that was kind of the impetus. Like I did, Morocco and all the Portugal and like a bunch of other trips. And I think it was the last 2 weeks of the exchange, and I was like, I really want to try traveling alone for the first time. And then I went to Cinque Terre in Italy, and then I did the hiking and it's stunning. And my parents were like, you're not going solo. And I was like, it's 3 days in Italy, like whatever. And that was the moment where I was like, I love being alone and traveling. And that also was a huge mindset shift.
I feel very similar to you. Like I have a parallel experience where I did study abroad in Milan for 6 months, and then the last, I think, 2 or 3 weeks of the program, I'm like, solo trip. Like I'm ready. I can do it. And it felt really freeing. It felt so fun, and just you're forced to make all the decisions for yourself, and then it's kind of daunting, but then it's so exciting. Like, I don't know. It was a really cool feeling.
It is. It's interesting. It's like all these experiences for the first time we've never really thought about. And like the idea of solo travel wasn't really introduced to me as a concept growing up. I don't know.
My mom would be like, no.
What are you
of course
thinking?
not.
Where did you go?
So I went to Croatia.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to Split and Dubrovnik, where they filmed like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And it was fun because like I think you're also forced to problem solve in a different way when you travel solo, and that was a really big growing up moment for me. Like I was supposed to get on a bus from Milan and go through Slovakia to Croatia, like around the bend basically, and I got too drunk and I slept through the bus, and so I was like, well, I can't stay in my apartment. I gotta be in Croatia. Like what do I do? And so I like found a boat going from a different city in Italy to Croatia overnight, and like
Oh my God.
took the train, got on the boat. I was like, I was like, I don't know what this is going to be like. But I met all these like Australians on the boat ride over. And
Always Australians.
Oh. And they were all going to like the same hostel area. And so it ended up being this really fun experience where I got to like meet a lot of people, and it was like hiking and going out to clubs and like exploring the city and eating dinner by myself, which felt, at that age, I was like, ooh, wow. I'm dining for one. But it pushes you out of all those comfort zones. Like you can't rely on anybody else. So I loved that experience.
I love it.
Yeah, did you feel like you faced a lot of inconveniences or like major obstacles while you were living abroad?
Yeah, I mean, like similar story. There was like that first Italy trip, like I was like, I'm supposed to take this bus to this hostel up on the mountain, but like the bus came, it was like nighttime and it comes once an hour. And I remember I saw the bus and I was like really far away and I was like, you need to run. And so I'm running, my backpack's open, all my shit's flying out. I'm like running on the side of the road and I'm like, I've never run so hard. I don't make the bus. I have all my stuff in this like trail behind me. And I was like, it's nighttime. I don't know where I am. I think I didn't have service or my phone was not working or something, and I was like, I need to get to this hostel because how am I gonna sleep tonight? And so, you find like I found like a bakery, and I was like trying to like Ostello Tramonti, and he's like, okay, like let me help you. So you figure it out, but like just minor inconveniences, and like on another trip I'd spent, I think probably the biggest inconvenience was when I was alone in Thailand. I got dengue fever, and that was the most difficult situation I've ever been in traveling alone, because I got sick. So I started to feel really feverish, and then I was living in an apartment by myself, and I was volunteering for a woman, and she was the only English-speaking person at this school, and she had left the day that I arrived to volunteer, and so I had no one besides 2 other workers that spoke some English, but I got really sick, and I mean, that was before like Uber Eats was a thing, right? So like I couldn't drink the drinking water in my apartment. I couldn't really move. My body was so weak, and it was one of the loneliest times I've really ever had. And it was really, that was really tough.
What do you do for, I think we talked about this actually on a podcast episode a few episodes ago, but like, what do you do in a medical emergency?
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was like, I mean, it obviously depends, right? Like I was getting really sick and my dad was like, you need to go to the doctor. And I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm fine. Yeah. He works for Boeing. He called Boeing of Bangkok, had someone he's never met before come to my apartment and be like, is your name Nikki? And I was like, yeah.
That must have also been disconcerting.
I was like, do I know you? And she's like, your dad, Abdi, sent me. We're going to the hospital. And so we went to she took me to the hospital, and thank God she did, because I think it was like my white blood cell count had been dropping so much that they wanted to do a blood transfusion, and I just like was not even... I was like, I'm fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then it kept dropping and I was in there. And the hospital system was really nice, actually. It was great. Like, very clean, sanitary, whatever. Good service. But, like, I was getting really sick, and my mom was like, I'm getting on a plane coming there. And I was like, no. And she's like, well, I'm flying you back. And I was like, like, I'm not going to get on a plane with dengue. That's the worst idea.
Yeah.
But
COVID patient zero.
Truly, she was like, it was a really, I laugh now, but it was a very turbulent time, because I had a friend whose, I think, aunt had passed away from from dengue. Mm-hmm. And so my mom was just getting it all in her head. What ended up being the cure is there's an unofficial cure for dengue. It's papaya leaf juice. So if you drink the juice of papaya, the woman that I volunteered for had her friend sent over like 5 bottles to the hospital. Yeah. So someone comes down with them, he's like, hey, like Lisa sent these juices for you, drink one. And so I drank one, and the next day my blood cell count shot up, and then I drank another one and it shot up, and then eventually got to go home from the hospital. But if you Google it, there's nothing. And I tried to edit the Wikipedia article for dengue fever to add in like unofficial cure, papaya leaf juice. And then I got like torn apart from like the medical community on Wikipedia. They were like, you know, you get your citations right. And I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. I just like need this information in there. But that was probably one of the scarier times being abroad and being sick.
I'm still stuck on the papaya juice cured.
Yeah, wild.
Because I feel like in like Western healthcare, American healthcare, they would have charged like $350,000 for a series of like antibiotic shots, and you could have just drank papaya juice.
It's honestly, and I remember the doctor. He was like, "No, that's not." He's like, "Oh, you're getting better," and I was like, "Oh yeah, like my friend sent over papaya leaf juice," and he's like, "That doesn't work," and I was like, well, I don't know what else to tell you because I've been getting worse, and the day that I had the juice, I got better. So I don't. But it is an unofficial cure. Maybe it doesn't work for everyone.
I feel like that's like in like cartoons. It's like the magical potion.
Yeah. Somebody just rubs some herbs together. And it's like
but it's great. It's like nature's medicine. If it works, it works. I mean,
if it worked for you, and that's the important part. And like you got out of the hospital. I mean, geez.
Also, like, would drinking it have made it worse? Like, why not? If from a doctor's perspective, why not just try it?
Because he'd be out of a job.
Truly. I don't think he wanted to attribute like my getting better with juice. I think it was it must have been against his like medical principles to think that was a thing. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you.
This is the scandal of the century that we're uncovering right now.
Papaya leaf juice.
Spicy.
Maybe it solves everything.
Wow. Okay, so that was tough. Yeah.
Okay, so you did Spain. You lived in Thailand. What are the other countries you've lived in?
I mean, living is like a flexible term, I guess.
Sure.
Like it depends. Like I was in Argentina for like a month. So like 6 months was Spain, 3 months was Thailand, a month in Argentina, and that was probably the other longest one I've been on like a solo trip.
Would you consider like living more full time somewhere abroad?
That was the dream and that was the plan in 2020. So October of 2019, I got a job working international remote. And I got that job because I wanted to be a digital nomad and I wanted to go and live abroad and do the thing. And I was like, okay, let me see if I can do this job and travel. Let me do a trial run for a month and see how it goes. And if it goes well, I'm going to leave Seattle, where I was living at the time. I'm going to get a backpack and I'm going to like do the thing.
Yeah.
And so I booked a flight from like February 6th to March 6th, 2020 to Argentina. And I was like, this is my trial run. And I had the most amazing month. I was like, I was like hiking Patagonia with like 1 day of PTO. I was like, this is wild. And this was before COVID. So it wasn't really that popular to like work abroad. And, you know, it was like a thing, but it wasn't that popular yet. And so I get home and I was like, this is it. Like, this is going to be my new life. Like, this is a turning point. And then the world turned to, you know, COVID happened. And that didn't pan out. But that was such a big dream of mine for so long. And I was so close and I thought it was going to come into fruition. But it didn't. And here I am.
What's stopping you from doing it again?
Yeah.
My values have changed a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me more.
So I think when I was at that point of my life, I really valued travel and adventure and newness and novelty. And I got this high off of meeting random new people. Yeah. That was the best part of backpacking for me. But then COVID happened and I had a delay and I moved to New York in 2021. And New York helped me get the itch of all the things that I liked in travel as far as meeting new people and experiencing different cultures and seeing diversity. And I think that was a big bucket. But then I also started to realize as you're getting older, you can do all these cool, amazing, crazy things and you can come back and have all these great stories, but you tell a story to someone and then that's it. They weren't there. They don't know. They don't really care that much. It was for you, and which is great, but then you have no one to share it with. And then you also don't build community. Like, you don't have a group of people to be around if you're always, like, hopping from country to country. And then I got a little worried. I was like, I can't just be digital nomad in my, 20s and 30s. Like, I kind of like the idea of having community. And so then everything started to shift a little bit, and I deprioritized that.
So depth over, like, novelty.
Yes.
Basically.
But there's so much novelty in New York City
Yeah.
that I'm getting like, I just like when I go to Flushing or Jackson Heights, like I get to talk to people that are not from here. And that I think has drastically improved just like the quality of my life and like how I stay like energized.
Because you can come back to the same group of friends or see your family more regularly or
Yeah, exactly.
So you like having a home base?
I do like having a home base.
Yeah. I would imagine being a nomad would be like you get to do all these things, but I don't know, you never have like a chance to also like recharge for yourself.
You can find you can like hang out in one country for like 6 months and that could be like your home base. But I just had met so many nomads that were seemingly really lonely. And like, I just realized I was like, I don't think I want to be like that or do that and just continue hopping around without building anything for my life.
That's a really interesting take. Approach for it. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys, what's your take on?
I think I've experienced a change in values in a similar way in my life, but I didn't go through the trip experience necessarily to figure it out. It was more like time. But when I had like I was living in San Francisco. I had like a quarter life crisis at like 25. And I was like, you know, I'm just like, I don't like who I am. And, you know, I want to experience new things and like create a new version of myself. And I'm going to go travel for 3 months in Asia and I'm going to live in a monastery in northern China. And like, it's going to be, I booked all the visas and travel and stuff for it. And then, I ended up getting this like once in a lifetime grant to move to New York. And I was like, oh, well, I can always go on this trip a little bit later. Let me try this out for a year. And I think what I realized is like, I was looking for an external solution to my internal problems. Like I was like, travel is going to solve everything. Mm-hmm. And if I'm just in a new city or a new place like every month, then I'll become a new person and I can like reset my life. And then I moved to New York and I'm like, well, shit, I got to do that anyway. But now I can actually like, focus on building something here.
Yeah.
And so like, I think a similar realization that, maybe just constantly hitting refresh doesn't create that much internally that I actually realized I was like hungry for.
I feel you. I think maybe it's just the age of like, you've done the working thing for a few years and you're like, is that it? That can't be it. There's got to be more to life, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like a sexy lifestyle. Like digital nomad's a sexy lifestyle.
I
know. Yeah.
And
it's glorified.
I went to Costa Rica in April and it was like, there were these beautiful like French people working on a patio, drinking coffee and going surfing in between their calls. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
God, just go away.
But then everyone's like transient and like, you don't make that many good friends. And, it's weird. It looks great on the surface though.
Yeah, there's definitely a darker side of loneliness. Like I would like have this little notebook and I would like write in it, even up because I did I still solo travel. I did like a month in Indonesia, like 2021. And I had this book and whenever I feel like I had this like realization, I would like write it down of like, I'm alone, like whether or not that was a good thing or a bad thing at the time that I was in. And then I'll go back and look at it to kind of remind myself of what I was feeling at the time. Because you come back to your home base and you're like, oh my God, but I want to go back again. That was so fun. You had the rose-colored glasses, but sometimes I'll read it and I'm like, you know what? No, there were some lonely times, and that's gonna happen no matter what you're doing, whether you're in New York or like, in Peru. You're gonna be lonely sometimes, and so nothing will really help you escape that.
Yeah, if you don't like love yourself and spending time with yourself, it doesn't matter like where you run to.
Exactly.
Damn, this got deep.
Yeah.
It's a lot, guys. A lot.
What do you think, Shrey? Why you haven't lived abroad? What's going on?
I've never lived abroad. I think.
What's wrong with you?
I like to travel. I haven't done really a lot of travel since COVID. But before, I'd always like to do like one big travel abroad trip. So like a 2-3 week trip, Europe or Asia, something like that. The last one I went to was India right before COVID. And that was actually a solo trip, which was great because usually I travel with friends, but like I had friends who were like, I'm not ready for that trip or whatever.
It's a big trip, yeah.
It's a big trip, and like there are definitely points where it's very uncomfortable. And so it's nice to be like, all right, well, I'll handle this however I want to, and not have someone complain like there's no AC or whatever about like modern first world conveniences.
Yeah.
But I think I'm similar to Trav. Like I never was like seeking this like digital nomad lifestyle, I definitely liked having a home base. But I did think in my 20s, I think I was always like looking for like the next thing to somehow cure whatever I was feeling. Like if I get this job, everything will be set. If I like do this, everything will be set. And then it's like, well, I don't know. I feel like now I'm like, there's actually just little things I like to enjoy in my normal day to day. I don't need these like huge, drastic changes in my life that brings happiness. So these days, I do want to do a bit of traveling. The thing I actually don't like about traveling is just the process to get places.
Okay, this is interesting because I'm the inverse. The process to get to the place is like 75% of the fun for me.
What?
Like figuring out how to get like do I take the ferry and then do I like take the train and the transportation between parts is so fun.
Oh, it's like the worst thing.
Really? Is it like just the flight? I don't know what part.
You're my dad. My dad's favorite part is not the trip. It's taking out 19 maps and like drawing out, because he only travels like, he does road trips. That's like his thing. And he's like traveled like in every state. But he loves like just sitting with maps and like drawing out. He's like, and then on day 4 we take this interchange across the park and it's gonna be beautiful. And I'm like, what?
The interchange.
Like what is wrong with you? And he's just giddy.
I'm honored that I remind you of your dad.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Truly.
I hate flights.
Okay, I have a hot take, and I tell this to everyone who says I don't like flights. Okay, I'm just gonna like
conversational
reframe this.
grenade.
Yeah, conversational grenade. Okay, in a flight is literally you sitting in a seat with free snacks, free drinks, free food if it's international, a bunch of free movies and TV in front of you. You don't feel guilty about not doing anything productive because you literally have no choice but to watch TV.
Yeah. And
you're just like flying through the sky. And like whatever you need, the flight attendant helps you. Like it's kind of, if you think about it in that lens, it's so fun.
Well, let me give you my perspective. Yeah. You're not sitting, you are scrunched like a barnyard animal in a seat. You have shitty snacks, you have shitty food.
Which airline? This is going to be different.
What? No, tell me an airline that has good food.
JetBlue oh my God. JetBlue has pop chips.
Disagree.
They do have good snacks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I flew them recently.
I guess the JetBlue flights, I've never been offered a snack. But they're never good snacks. There's never good food. The TV always has shitty headphones that come with it, so you can't really hear. You have to turn it all the way up in the volume. You can't sleep because it's always shaking. There's some baby on board. There's somebody yelling. There's whatever. And if you're like in the window seat, if you want to go to the bathroom, you have to like tap the people next to you.
Fair. You don't know whether or not to wake them up. Yeah. You're like, do they want the food? Mm-hmm. I don't know if they want the food. Like,
and you're on a metal death tube flying 400 miles an hour through the sky that you have no control over.
Metal death tube. Tell me how you really feel about flying.
And not to mention, before you get on the flight, there's security. There's all these delays that can happen before.
You got a middle-aged man just frisking your butt. Like, I don't want that.
You can get on the plane, and then there's a delay there, and then you have to just sit there.
Oh, sitting on the tarmac.
But like, okay. I promise I'm not trying to be annoying. I promise I'm not trying to toxic optimism. But airports, sorry, I can't even wrap my thoughts around this. Airports are the best place to just watch people. Like, you just look at people. It's like New York City. You look at people and you're like, I've actually always wanted to do this, where you just go up to people and like, where are you going? Why are you going there? Are you going to go meet your, like, you got cheating on your wife? Are you going to go on a business trip? Are you I don't know, like something scandalous.
You look like a cheater.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like, where are you going? Are you cheating on your wife? He's like, how'd you know?
You know, like, you could have some really deep conversations and be like,
True.
And I'm that person that just like, you know, people like, oh, I hate people that talk to Uber drivers and people on the flights. That's me. I'm like, hi, where are you going? Like, I just think it's interesting to see where, when, how. Like, and airports are the one place where you can just get all these random people together.
Have you made a genuine connection with somebody you sat next to on a flight before?
Yeah, there was one guy I met on a flight from like, I guess New York to Seattle, and he. Like, I mean, we became Instagram friends, and we were like, we never really like became like good friends, but we still chat online, and like we were like kept wanting to hang out. But he's just like a person to know, and like I don't know, it was so like that's probably as close as I've ever gotten. But I think it's just even fun for that moment, that interaction, to like talk to someone and tell me about where you're going, and then And then when it ends, and you're like, have a good flight.
Has someone ever tried to talk to you and you were like, shut the fuck up?
Okay, actually, yeah, there was one guy, like
Yeah,
an older gentleman, but like there's like, okay, I think I get social cues. I hope I do, but I was just like, I was like putting the headphone in, and he continued. I was like, they're in my ears. Like, how are you still talking to me?
Yeah, see, that's bad, and you can't move. You can't leave.
Yeah.
That's true. You really can't leave.
He's like, oh, I heard the weather's going to be bad.
Dude,
You're like, God damn it.
I had one. I think I was flying from Austin to Seattle through Denver, or the other way. I can't remember, but this was like maybe 10 years ago. And so I was like, I think I was more open then to having that conversation of just like, well, I could read my book or I could like, talk to this person. And I sat next to this middle-aged woman, and we had a great conversation for the first leg of the flight, like talking. She was showing me like pictures of her like farm and like what she had built. Like she was like, I'm into boating. Like I just got this boat. I don't know. We just had like a really good conversation. And she kept ordering cocktails when the like steward when they came by. And by the time we landed, I was like, okay, this lady's like a little bit drunk. Like I hope I'm like, it's like the mid-afternoon. And then, you know, we had like a 2-hour gap between our next flight. And so I went and did my own thing, and I kept kind of like walking by her gate, and she was at the bar and just, you know, kept drinking and kept drinking. And then when we were getting on the second flight, she could not like stand. She got
My God.
Wow.
like belligerent. She was like arguing with the people at the desk because they're like, I don't think we can let you on the flight. And
She was
like,
that drunk?
yeah, and then she's like, I know him. We're traveling together. And I was like, I don't know you. And I was like, just please let me board this flight. I don't know this woman. And it made me so uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, now my new rule is I'm not talking to anybody on
That's
the plane.
hilarious.
No new friends for you.
No new friends. No new friends. You don't know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
I didn't choose them.
Yeah. Even apart from like flights also, like I went to Thailand for 2 weeks after college, and I remember we went to Koh Phi Phi. And what?
Oh, you said we went to go pee-pee. I was like, I didn't need to know that trick.
And we were taking this ferry, and it was like 6 a.m. And it was like a 3-hour boat ride. And it was not fun. It was like deck chairs basically put out, and it's on this like rocky like ferry, and it's like 3 hours, and you're like, I just want to be there.
I like that. I like those. Okay,
I also got a little
myself.
seasick.
I don't get seasick, and I love when there's choppy weather on a boat.
Really?
So, yeah.
No.
My dream is to be a lighthouse keeper with the waves hitting it. It's so soothing, but
Interesting.
Anyway.
I feel like it comes down, and I've actually had this conversation with Shannon a lot about like your values, and like I've actually realized convenience is not a value of mine at all. Like comfort and convenience, I don't know what it is. I just don't really like care that much. I don't know what it is. Like people are like, oh, I love, premium because you get extra leg space. And I'm like, well, my mom's like, I'm short. So like maybe that's it. Or, people are like, oh, like taking the Uber to the airport. And I'm like, I'd still take the train. I don't know. Like these little things, I think I just enjoy them. The process of these things more so.
Do you think the payoff is better when you suffer a little bit to get there?
I've actually talked with my therapist. I'm like, it's been a topic. I'm like, why do I not care? Like, what is wrong with me? But I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm like, I just like went through this thing, and now I'm like, like we're here.
You love a trial.
I do self-made trial and tribulations.
Yeah.
Are you a travel masochist? Are you excited the entire time, like on the rides there? Like, are you like, yes,
Yeah,
I'm so
I'm
excited.
like, yes.
I hope we get delayed.
I'm not that bad. I think not a delay. When I'm getting better. Like I used to be really bad, where I was like, oh, this is the worst. This is the most embarrassing story. I was traveling with an ex. This is a long time ago. We were in Sweden together. And I had this idea of like where you just show up to the hotel and you're like, do you have a room? Instead of booking it. And I was like, Zach, we have to just show up. And he's like, why don't we just book it online? And I was like, no, it's more fun if we show up. And he's like, what? And I was like, just come. And it was like this hotel boat in Stockholm. And like, sweet guy. He let me have my adventure, but I was like, do you have a room? And like I had this like fantasy of just like popping into a hotel. I don't know what I was thinking. And I did the same thing in Bangkok. I was like, I'm not gonna book a hostel. I'm just gonna walk around and see if I can find one. Like, what was I thinking? I don't know.
Did it work?
That one was so hot. I had so much shit on my back. And after like 40 minutes, I was like, I can't, Bangkok is huge. Like, I can't do this. So then I folded and I went on Hostel World and I booked a hostel.
I will say, like, I went on this work trip to Spain, and then we were supposed to start working on Monday, and the weekend before I went to Barcelona, and I just went on my own. And I definitely had that feeling when I got to Barcelona. I was like tired, and I got there, and like, you know, the city's pretty lively and vibrant and whatever. And I had that feeling of like, man, nobody knows me here. And I could do whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna do whatever, but like, you could kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And like, no one's gonna be like, oh, Shrey did this or whatever. It's like a very liberating feeling.
Yeah, you're never gonna see people again.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of the solo travel. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't owe anybody anything. You don't have to you just literally can follow what you want in the moment.
Yeah.
So, okay. I've always wanted, in the sense of like you popping into the hotel and having this magic. It's like, only the presidential suites available.
So cringy.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. I've always wanted to do the like go to the airport and dart throw. Like just like pick the flight on the board and go.
I've always wanted to do that too. It's hard to pack. How do you pack for that?
But I think you would enjoy that though. That's the challenge.
Like,
you have to pack for all seasons, but light.
I think Nikki like 7 years ago would be down. I think I've changed a little bit. Like the Sweden story was out when I was 22. So that was a long time ago. I've definitely grown a little bit since then. I've wanted to do that. I think it would be fun if somebody I had a range. I was like, okay, we're gonna go somewhere like warm, like pack a swimsuit and like some shorts, and then like just figure it out.
Oh, you would have loved Blake's bachelor party.
Oh, I heard about this. Okay, I heard about this. You guys didn't know, right? You didn't know where you were going.
No.
Yeah. Do you want to share the context for dear listener, Shrey?
So our friend Blake, he was getting married, and he planned a bachelor party this past summer. And basically what he told us is show up to Houston, book a flight, and then send me $500, your passport information.
I love this.
And when you get to Houston, I'm going to tell you where we're actually going. So we were going to drive, fly, I don't know, go somewhere from Houston to an unknown destination.
And he said it would be warmish, so pack like, you know, short sleeve stuff, some closed-toed shoes.
He was pretty reluctant to tell us even
But
the
like
packing
even
list.
that, yeah. We were like, is it cold or warm? Like we really need to know.
Were you guys excited, or were you like what is this guy's like? Would you expect him to just ship you off to like?
He's an
Tanzania?
adventurer. Like he would actually be great in this conversation. He loves solo travel. He's gone all over the world. He's in Bali right now for his honeymoon.
He lived in like South America for 3 months,
Yeah.
Southeast Asia for 3 months.
We knew it'd be an adventure, and he was recently stopped drinking, and that made me way more confident in the trip because it wasn't going to be like Cartagena, and like I'm like, oh my god, what are we doing?
18 people.
18
people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he planned the entire thing
for
on
his own bachelor party.
Wow.
Yeah.
Reverse surprise.
He was that committed to the. Okay, so then where did you guys end up going again?
Guatemala. Yeah.
But not Guatemala City.
No.
5 hours by bus.
I
outside
love this.
Guatemala
I feel like
City.
for my bachelor, I'm gonna do the same thing.
It was, it was a really cool concept.
Yeah.
And like, by far, probably will be the most unique bachelor party I've ever been on.
Easily.
I found whenever I go abroad, especially Europe, like Uber drivers, people love to inquire about American politics with me.
Yeah.
Really?
Or like just what's happening. And they're like, wow, it's crazy over there, right? I'm like, no, yeah, but like, no, but yeah. Like, I don't know.
It's just in the media a lot. That's
What
why.
I found is like, honestly, those conversations are more nuanced and like enjoyable than doing it here.
I do actually enjoy talking with like a cab driver or an Uber driver in a country because they know the city very well, and they're also just nice people.
Yeah. But I will say, if you're a female alone, the tax situation is like I always send a picture of like the person's thing to my sister.
Yeah.
Or like I'll like pretend to be on the phone or something because like certain countries cabs like I was in Colombia and I had a friend who like I read online, they're like, okay, go on this line for the cabs. And it was fine. I just like was on the phone and like talking to my sister, pretending like I was whatever, preoccupied. And then I was visiting a friend there and he was like, my friend went missing a few weeks ago. He was in a cab drunk coming back from the casino. He just never went home. They never found him. And then they found his body like I think a few weeks later. And he was Colombian. Like he was just, and so you never know. Like, yeah. I don't know. There's so much glamour to like travel, but then there's like that side of like what's too far and like where's the lines, you know?
There were a lot of those like kind of horror stories, I feel like, around the time that I went to, of just like, you know, somebody in Rome like got pushed in front of a train or something, or like, you know, there were all these like, yeah, it kind of made you nervous the whole time. And I'm sure, especially like as a woman traveling alone, there's just like so much we don't think about that goes into a simple trip, like around the block or anything like that.
Yeah, I once had a guy tell me, he drove me home on his motorbike in Thailand, and he, like, I got off, and he, like, smiled, and he's like, you should be more careful. I could have killed you.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, oh, my God. Like, yes, he's right. Like, I don't know him. He's driving off in the middle of the night with me. Like, you know, what am I doing? But it was the scariest thing, and I was like, you're right. But like, where do you draw the line between adventure and like safety, you know?
Yeah. So what are other things like you felt like you had to be very precautious about?
Taxis. I remember like in Colombia, I was really hungry one night, and I didn't like have any friends at the I wasn't like taught. There was no one really there, and I was really hungry, and I was like, I don't know where I am. It's like really dark outside, and I was like, I'm not gonna go get food because I don't know where I am. I'm alone. So like random things like that where it's just like, or situations where I was at, I don't remember where it was. I was in Thailand somewhere, and I was gonna get in this like, I forgot what they were called, but there are these red trucks that were not like, they weren't a tuk-tuk, but it was like a communal taxi. So they would just pick people up, and then you would sit in the back of the truck and you'd get off. And I was getting into one, and I was in there, and I was like, I'd taken 1 million, and I was like, I don't know why, but for some reason I can't be in this right now. Like I need to leave, and I don't know why. And or I just random gut feelings, I think sometimes. But yeah, you just have to kind of be aware.
Trust your gut. Be aware.
Yeah, I definitely think having that street sense like is very important, because you don't know what's happening, but that gut you're talking about, it could be the thing that saves you from something very, very bad.
Yeah.
And like worst case, like you just went a different way or like went home or whatever.
Like 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for peace of mind.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot of poor decisions I made traveling and studying abroad that like definitely got bailed out by like hubris and being a young big guy and stuff. like, oh, let's try to buy like weed from a guy in an alleyway in Morocco, and by the way, he can take us to the desert for a trip. I shit you not, we did that in Marrakesh. It was just like, how did we not die? like what was this decision making process? But then it's an adventure, and so it's that balance is weird.
But it's hard, because if you say no to everything, then you're not going to get like the fun experience or whatever. But you may die. I don't know.
Yeah,
might be a buzzkill. Yeah.
Living on the edge.
Should we do a little mail time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we Justin usually does this, but we
replaced them.
Yeah,
it was useless.
We replaced him.
Just kidding. Love you,
Justin. We asked a question to our social media following.
Ooh, okay.
The question was, what's the most amount of culture shock you've faced traveling abroad? So we got like a few responses. Want to get your reactions to them.
Okay, let's hear them.
So weed in Canada is way stronger.
Culture shock. Okay.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
To be honest, I don't know that. Okay, actually, maybe like the French-speaking side of Canada, there could be some culture shock there.
Yeah.
I'm not like a huge smoker, so I've never dabbled in Canadian weed. But like, I can't imagine it's that different. Like, I feel like it's just all grown in the same place and shipped like up to Vancouver.
I feel like that comment could be like going from Texas to California or something. What else we got, Shrey?
Another one, requirement to always have reservations.
In what, what?
Yeah,
New York City?
That.
That's interesting.
I feel like I've actually almost never made a reservation whenever I've traveled abroad.
I think there are some things that have struck me about like the times of day and how they're like different. Like in Italy, anytime we went out of like a big city, they usually would take a gap in the afternoon where everything would shut down from like 2 to 5, basically. Yeah. And so like nobody would work at the grocery stores. There were no restaurants open and stuff. And so that sometimes was like, oh crap, okay. I don't know how time
period is definitely like from Texas, like the bars close at 2 a.m. and that's when the night starts in like Spain.
Yeah. No, it's like what you were saying about the things closing down another day, it's just the convenience. Like there was like a sandwich shop in Italy and I wanted to get a sandwich, but I was like, oh, I'll be back in an hour. Will you still be open? I was like, oh yeah, it says you're open till 5. And he's like, no. Like, like just like tiny things like that where we're just so used to like regimented, like 5 p.m. they open, you're closed or whatever,
Yeah, and it feels like very American to get mad at people for not like catering to you. Like, I can't. I was like, what do you mean you're human and you want to go away for an afternoon? Like, this is a shop. How could you?
It's the CVS, goddammit.
All right, next one. The lack of water people want to serve you at restaurants and pubs.
Oh, yeah, that honestly, it's like the whole thing where we get water for free here, but they give you bread for free in Europe. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm not mad at that, but like...
Yeah, the $6 for like a sparkling water that you have to pay or something. That is brutal.
I always did feel like I was very dehydrated whenever I traveled because like I think like beer was cheaper in Europe than like sparkling water or just bottled water.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, might as well get the bang for my buck.
Yeah, exactly. Any other cultural shocks?
I'm just trying to think. I don't not like any.
Language was an interesting one. Like learning how people actually used language. Because like I studied Italian in college, but it was like textbook Italian, I guess. And when I went, I was like, oh, everything is wrong. Like all of the ways you say things, the slang. Like one of the early ones that I realized was there are basically 2 ways to ask like, how are you in Italian? And the one we were taught is like, I was under the assumption it's like the American, like you go to a store, you're checking out, and they're like, how you doing? You're like, oh, fine. Like I'm not gonna actually tell you anything. It's the same answer. It's just a courtesy.
Yeah.
But the way that we asked it in Italy is basically like, tell me about your problems. And so you'd go get like a sandwich and you'd be like, how you doing? And they'd be like, well, my sister is sick and like the shop had a leak on Tuesday. And you're standing there, you're like, what the fuck? Like,
I did not ask. I needed one answer.
And you're like, we realized after a couple of weeks we were asking like the very formal, like, tell me about how you're really doing versus like what's up. Yeah, man, my Italian sucks now too. That's the side. I think like I don't think I've spoken Italian in like 6 years or something.
See, the Spanish, I still kept up. Like I went to Miami last weekend, and every Uber driver, every person, like there's actually shockingly a lot of people that don't speak English in Miami, which I didn't really know. But like I just every opportunity I have to speak Spanish with someone, I'm like, puedo practicar contigo? And they love it. They're like, sí. And because it's just like, it's a shame. You like learn all this, like all the language and you get used to it. And then it just like goes away.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I would always recommend somebody at least brushing up on language before you go somewhere, just out of like respect to just like, I don't know. You don't want to be the American guy coming in and being like, it's like, what's wrong with y'all?
I know.
Take me to the McDonald's, though.
God. Can you imagine? Do you have a Starbucks here? Hi, thank you.
I'm actually surprised no one from our response talked about food. Like just like there's certain places you go, like you're not going to have American food. You're just going to eat the same food from that culture over and over. And for some people, that's a big change.
Yeah. Like in Colombia, everything had corn in it. Everything was corn-based. Or like some cultures that just like don't seem to have vegetables at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've been eating like meat and bread for like literally a week and a half.
Yeah.
Which is
By the time we left Guatemala, we'd had like 14 steaks. And I was like, I can't do this anymore.
I made like a huge smoothie when I got back.
Like crawling to Joe in the juice and you're like,
Oh, like there was one kid, one of my roommates in Italy, his mom shipped him peanut butter because we couldn't find it in any stores. And so it was like this, we were like, yeah, PB&J.
The holy grail.
But yeah, living abroad, studying abroad, recommend.
100%. And I think it's interesting to like think about your relationship with like being abroad for long periods of time as you get older. And I feel like most of the time, most people trend towards similar to us. You like have this whole thing about, you know, having all these adventures in your like 20s, and then in your 30s, you like intrinsically kind of want to like do that differently, which I think is healthy. But I think you should let yourself do that when you're younger if you can, and then like taper off as you're older if you want to. But some people don't, and I think that's also okay.
Yeah, I think the other thing we all agreed on is solo travel's cool and should be experienced. It's like a different way of experiencing yourself.
Yeah, and I think it got so much more popular after COVID because people could do it, and I think it's great. You learn so much about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, on that note, Nikki, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, this was awesome.
This is lovely. Thank you, PNT, our lovely studio. Thank you, Nikki. Do you have any shout-outs you want to make?
Always to Shenong for bringing us together.
Yes, all the love.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Peace.